We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andrew, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. And not to spoil it for anybody, I imagine anybody who's a World Cup fan has at least been keeping up with the standings in that. So we just have the interesting tidbit of all three host nations have now been eliminated from the World Cup.
I still never even saw that Canada was playing any games. Like, it never showed up in any of my feeds that Canada was. If you were not around to tell me that Canada was in the World Cup, I would not know. I'm not.
Despite us hosting games.
I know. But every game I watched, and I was like, I wonder where they're playing this. None of them were in Canada.
I see.
I watched a couple of games. I didn't watch a lot. We have Peacock, so Telemundo shows up. And by the way, that's the only way.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
I do not need to understand a word of what you're saying in order to get the gist of what's going on.
You can get the emotion. You can get the feeling without understanding the words.
The dude says goal for a long time, then takes a breath, then does it again, and then takes a breath and does it again. I'm like, I can get behind this.
I mean, not so much for Team Canada in the final game that they played. There was no screaming of the word goal for them. But
I had rehearsal last night, and when the U.S. was playing their game, and when I got home, it was 2-1, and my wife was like, "Oh, we're not playing very good." I'm like, I don't know how either of us would know that. One of us really knows what's going on this thing. And then she was trying to make her lunch for tomorrow and realized she needed bananas and some other stuff. And I was like, I'll run to the store. By the time I got back, there was like 12 minutes left in the game, and nothing happened. So, that's not
scored
true.
on again.
They got scored on again. Yes. Nothing happened from our side. I'll put it to you that way. And there's all sorts of people out there who really know what they're looking at. And I know I was watching somebody talk about the Mexico England game, which I did watch, and complaining about how Mexico was playing. I'm like, I don't know. They seemed to be playing fine to me. They were pretty upset about whatever strategy they were using. And I'm like, I don't know. They kicked the ball, and they were passing it, and they occasionally took shots. I feel like that's what you're supposed to do. But very ignorant about the whole thing. That was
the closest of the U.S. Canada Mexico games. Mexico came the closest to actually advancing, but there it is. All three host nations eliminated. The casting aspersions of there being, naughty behind-the-scenes rigging and stuff like that doesn't seem to be.
The folks
the
United States is good about the appearance of impropriety, but not so much the impropriety itself.
Yeah, the folks
a little too
who had
obvious about it.
Folks who had the conspiracy theories that because of the colors of the World Cup logo this year, that Portugal was like, it was fixed that Portugal were going to be the winners, because there was a whole conspiracy theory going around based on analyzing the colors of the logos.
People are nuts.
And they're like, it has all the colors of the Portugal flag, so it's rigged. They're going to win. Well, I hope you didn't bet too heavily on that, because Portugal also knocked out.
It's not my sport. It's not the type of sport I tend to want to watch, and so I am excited because of it, tangential, like it's like overflow excitement. Everybody else is excited. I'm like, well, I guess I should be a little excited too. Yeah. And then I start watching it. So I'm just starting to be supportive of other people and their love of this. What they call the beautiful game. I guess it's called the beautiful game. Yeah. I don't know about that. It seems.
Anyway, there it is. World Cup. Hooray.
World Cup. And our U3 people started getting their remotes. Did everybody get one yet? Or?
There is still one yet to be delivered, but it is being tracked. All the stuff is out there. So as of the time of this recording, by the time you're listening to this, all three might have been delivered. That is entirely possible.
So Larry, Greg, and Kerry, who who won last week. That we got in contact with them. They responded back. We got their address. We sent it on to Sofabaton, who's doing all the shipping. Sofabaton is shipping it to them, and there you go. And two out of the three have arrived. I know at least one person has already set theirs up and is, well, for the most part, and is pretty happy with
added all the devices anyway, which is
at the very least.
Definitely the lion's share when it comes to the U3, since there are not activities there. But yes, many macros yet to be added to that.
I'll be honest with you, my Sofabaton, the X2, just started not turning the TV on for some reason.
Huh.
Like, it will do it if you go to the devices and you press power on. So I don't know what the deal is with that. So I basically went into the app, and underneath the power on sequence, it does click to power it on and then wait 0.5 seconds. I don't know what that does. And then I put another click to power on it. I'm just like, press it twice. Just press the button twice, because it seems to not be working the first time. So we'll see if that makes a difference. I just did that last night. So, yeah, these things, it's been working fine for a long time, and all of a sudden it stops working really well. I don't know. It just happens. That's what it is.
Okay.
Anything going on with you, Rob?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, nothing particularly interesting that I can think of. So, no, nothing going on my side. Anything going on with your seat or your sons, or feeling better? You doing okay?
I'm all right. One of my sons moved out, decided to move out. He's back in Tallahassee, and another son is still traveling, and he'll be back on tomorrow, Wednesday, which by the time you listen to this, he'll be home. So it's, we're getting back to a full house, as not overly full. Usually when we have all three boys here, somebody sleeps in the home theater,
right,
which is a little irritating. But we're getting back to a full house where things are kind of calming down around here. It's very hot. Nobody wants to do anything. So, just hanging out. Tour de France started this week. So I went from, dedicated to myself to watching 2 or 3 episodes of Daredevil Born Again each night. Apparently I'm watching FIFA and Tour de France now.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Those are limited time things. Daredevil will still be there when you're done.
Those still, hopefully. Who knows?
I think so.
Who knows?
Pretty good odds. Who knows these days? That's coming up in the news, but pretty good odds.
So yeah, I didn't really watch anything. What about you, Rob? What did you watch?
Yeah, so right, I did watch a movie this week, which was The Sheep Detectives. So yeah, that's a fairly recent movie that honestly, I don't even remember being in the theaters, but it was in the theaters.
I vaguely remember advertisements about this. It's animated, yes?
No, well, I mean, computer-generated animals, but it's a live-action movie with real live actors.
With Hugh Jackman in it, right?
It is indeed starring Hugh Jackman,
okay.
yeah.
I remember this.
This is, I watched it now that it is streaming on Amazon Prime, so didn't pay to rent or own this, but I watched the streaming version of it on Amazon Prime. I believe this was a 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio, because it had the teeny tiny little black bars at the top and bottom, so not full 16:9, but definitely not CinemaScope. Looked really good. I was very, very impressed by the CGI animals, because, I mean, it's always a question of these are animals. This movie, if you want just a very quick feeling, how does this movie feel? It is quite akin to like the Babe movies or Babe Pig in the City. It's that type of tone. And it's that type of thing where the animals are speaking, but the humans don't actually understand the animals. The animals can speak to one another.
Okay. And so not a Dr. Dolittle sort of thing.
That's right, yeah. We, the audience, get to hear them speaking, in our case, in English to one another, but the humans are actually just hearing sheep bleating to one another. So yeah, it's very much like Babe or Babe Pig in the City, that type of thing. And so yeah, there's always the question there of how human-like, how anthropomorphized do we make these animals? Because these are meant to be real animals, real sheep for the most part in this case, that we're seeing. But of course, they are speaking to each other in English when we're hearing them. So how uncanny do you make it? How realistic do you try to make it? So I thought this tread the line very nicely, where when we're just seeing the animals from the human point of view, I thought the CGI was darn good. I thought it was pretty darn impressive. The sheep look very, very woolly and very fluffy, and yet each one very distinct, very recognizable, so that you can tell each of them apart. So you don't just have the thing where it's a flock of sheep and you can't tell one sheep from another. All of them are definitely distinct and recognizable, and they did a good job of that without going into making them full-blown cartoons or giving them, strangely set eyes that look more human or anything like that. So I thought they did a very, very good job on that. And overall, I just thought that the cinematography was very pleasant, very pleasing to look at. It's nice and colorful, it's bright, it's detailed, but it doesn't go so far as to pull you out of it and make you think that anything looks fake or strange. So I thought very, very well produced, very, very well shot and done. So this was written by Craig Mazin and Leonie Swan. Neither name I was super familiar with, but Craig Mazin was actually a writer on the later Scary Movies, not the brand newest one, which went back to the Wayans family there, but Scary Movies 3 and 4, the ones that everybody derides because they got taken away from the Wayans. And the studio just went on. So Craig Mazin was the writer on that. So you're like, ooh, inauspicious there. And also Hangover 2 and 3 was a writer on those. Not necessarily thought of as being the best of the Hangover movies.
Just copy paste mostly and put into a different country.
But then on the flip side, more recently wrote a bunch of episodes of Chernobyl and a bunch of episodes of The Last of Us, both of which are thought of very highly. So it seems like maybe Craig Mazin has just been getting better and better. And then Leonie Swan is a German writer with a small IMDb and German features and TV shows prior to this. So this seems to be the first Hollywood and English language one that Leonie Swan has done. So interesting writing combination there. Directed by Kyle Balda, who mostly did a bunch of Minions features. So that might be why you would think that this was an animated feature, but it's not. It's CGI animals, but live action actors. So as we mentioned, Hugh Jackman in this and Molly Gordon. Nicholas Braun is sort of like the main not very good detective character in this, because this it is called The Sheep Detectives, and yes, there is a mystery to be solved, but there is of course a human character that is acting as not an official detective, but the person who is doing the detecting. That's played by Nicholas Braun. And then you also have Nicholas Galitzin, who just played Adam / He-Man in the newest Masters of the Universe movie. And so once again, for whatever reason, they go and cast Nicholas Galitzin in this role and then try to hide that he is a monster of a human being. Like, he is a very tall, very muscular, gigantic man, is Nicholas Galitzin. And in Masters of the Universe, when he gets to be He-Man, that is on full display. Right. But when he is playing Adam, they try to do the thing of just putting him in gigantic sweatshirts and stuff like that and shooting him from angles that make him look like maybe he isn't quite as gigantic.
Stand way back there.
That's right. Everybody else stand on your...
to let you look small.
That's right. Everybody else stand on your apple boxes. Nicholas, you go stand in your trench, and we'll make it look like Adam isn't a gigantic monster of a man. But yes, in this movie, for whatever, there was no particular reason why the character he played couldn't have been a large man, but for some reason they wanted him to be shorter than almost everybody else, and it was... This is the one part where I kind of had to chuckle a bit, because you're looking at it and you're like, he must have exceedingly short legs, because I can see his torso, and yet his head is at the shoulders of the character he's talking to.
Yeah.
So does he just have 1 foot high thighs? Is that what's going on here? Because that's the only way the proportions of his body would make sense for where he stands. I'm not quite sure why they decided that he's supposed to be playing a not very tall character when it's Nicholas Galitzin, a gigantic man. But anyway, that's what they did. So they had some fun with that. And then you've got some very famous voices for the sheep. You got Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Brett Goldstein from Ted Lasso. He's the main player there. Bryan Cranston, Patrick Stewart, lots of very recognizable voices playing the sheep. So this is an all ages movie. You can absolutely watch this with the whole family. I wouldn't say it's like outright a kids movie though. Again, I think the closest comparison is like the Babe movies. There's plenty here for an adult to enjoy, but it's absolutely fine for all ages. And there's no bad words. There's no outright violence, that type of thing. There is a mystery to be solved, and it's not like a completely victimless thing or something like that. So a little bit there, but yeah, absolutely appropriate for all ages. And you know what? It's sweet. It's humorous. The mystery itself is actually like a reasonable mystery. Like they don't dumb it way down to the point that you're just like rolling your eyes and just waiting for it to be over or something like that. It's like, no, it's a pretty good, compelling mystery. They do get into a very, very clear and completely wrapped up and spoken out loud for you ending. So there is no like, wondering what really happened or anything like that. No, it's all going to be tied up in a very nice, neat little bow for you. So, but it's satisfying in that way. It's a little bit like how the Knives Out movies, right? You have in Knives Out, they spell it out for you at the end so that you're not left confused as to what actually went on, and it's played out that way. So yeah, very pleasant movie. I can absolutely give it a thumbs up. It's not something I'm going to be like absolutely raving about, but if you're a little bit tired of everything being dark and dour, if you could maybe use a little bit of break from the real world news and things like that, I can absolutely recommend you go and check out The Sheep Detectives, because it's a nice little break for your mind. It's about an hour and 40 minutes long. It's not overstaying its welcome. And I thought very pleasing and nice, and plenty of chuckles to go around. And it's a small town in somewhere in the UK. Hugh Jackman's accent is a little bit wonky, kind of little bit all over the place, but that's absolutely fine. And all of the famous voices doing the sheep were absolutely delightful, and honestly had a little bit of growth and character development for the sheep themselves. I'm not going to spoil anything here because it's a fun little reveal, but the sheep have, I'm not going to say a supernatural, but I'm going to say a superhuman ability. The sheep have an ability that humans do not have. That isn't exactly supernatural, but it definitely plays into it, and plays very much into the moral and the character growth that all of the sheep have, is them coming to terms with this superhuman ability that they have, and what it means for maturing and growing up and all of those types of things. So it has some good lessons in there too, if you're willing to accept that. So yeah, thumbs up for The Sheep Detectives. Check it out. I think you'll have a good time.
All right. Yeah, like I said, I didn't really watch anything this week other than sports, so yeah, that's fine. This is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. To get your questions answered, all you have to do is ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. Come to the website, find our shows, our show notes, our Flickr album to follow along with the pictures in which we talk about or we're referencing during our answers to your questions, as well as any links to any products or articles that we mention. Facebook.com/AVRant podcast, YouTube.com/AVRant. You can contact Rob directly at rob@avrant.com. Socials is at First Reflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. My socials are nothing because I don't really do socials anymore.
Don't bother trying to find them anymore.
I mean, I'm still probably there, but
yeah, your handle exists.
I only one I actually, I think, physically deleted was Twitter.
Yeah,
was the only one that I really
X.
deleted. I'm not calling it that.
Well, I mean, when it's the one that I miss and kind of wish would come back, I call it Twitter. When it's the thing that I am absolutely happy to have deleted, it's X.
All right. I'm going to thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, support the podcast in some way. One of the ways you can do that is going to avrant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and send us a PayPal donation. This week, Ari did that, so thank you very much, Ari.
Yes, indeed. Ari, thank you for the PayPal donation. We really appreciate that financial support.
If you want to support us monthly, you can do that by going to patreon.com/AVRantPodcast. Sign up to be one of our patrons. We are currently at 120 patrons. It's a new month, so we lost one. So check your credit cards if you want to keep supporting us. Make sure that it's still going through. So 120 patrons, including Tom T. It's not me, somebody else. Tom is also a member of the 2 Hour Plus Club. So thank you very much to all of our patrons, and thank you very much, Tom.
That is right. That is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So big thanks to our 120 patrons over there. I did actually notice that like the dollar amount went up from last week. So somebody out there heard us saying that the dollar amount had understandably gone down, and somebody or multiple somebodies boosted theirs up. So thank you very much for that. But amongst those 120 patrons, Tom T is one of them and a long-standing member of the 2 Hour Plus Club. So thank you very much for being a continued patron.
All right. We've got notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from Neil, Greg, Tom, Karl, Ari, Kerry. Kerry says he really appreciates the effort we both put into the podcast, and he enjoyed Lee's vacation photos. I'm going to be honest with you. All these people liking Lee's vacation photos feels very targeted towards me saying it was a terrible idea. We never should have done it.
Honestly, I don't think that's where it's coming from at all.
I think it is. I think you're paying people. I think you're writing that in there in order for me to have to say it. That's what I think. Like this is one of those underhanded Canadian ways of getting their comebacks or whatever.
The next part will explain why that was said.
Anyways, he was already planning to take a vacation to the Pacific Northwest, and now he's thinking it might be Vancouver instead of just staying within the U.S. Yeah, I think you should go to Vancouver. Vancouver's lovely. I was there many, many moons ago when I was in high school, and my experience with Vancouver was like, Canadians in Vancouver, remember, this is decades ago. Decades ago. Look at the fashion magazines and go, I guess that's what we should be wearing. And then they just wear it.
Oh.
Like I saw people wearing clothes that made literally no sense. I'm like, what is this? Why is there just one collar on one side? And they're just walking down the street. And I was like, and that was my single impression. I took Vancouver's very lovely. Don't get me wrong. Vancouver was lovely. And I had a great time while I was there. But I was a kid. I had no autonomy. I was there for a band trip. We were doing like a band competition for our jazz band. I think. It might have been the whole band, but it was definitely the jazz band. And that, I had very little autonomy. I couldn't go anywhere. But I look around as we were driving in our vehicles, and I was like, what are these people wearing? What's wrong with them?
Don't think that's the impression you would get today. I mean, it's not that there aren't any fashion-conscious, fashion-forward people in Vancouver. There certainly are. But the vast majority of the time, everyone's just wearing, like, athletic leisure wear. It's a whole lot of Lululemon around in Vancouver. It's a whole lot of yoga pants and hoodies. You
haven't seen a lot of yoga pants till you come to Florida. That's all I gotta say. It's too hot to wear. If I could get away with wearing yoga pants, I would, because it is too hot to wear anything else. Everything is hot. Like everything sticks to you, so you might as well wear something tight.
But yeah, no, it's pretty much, casual athletic wear is definitely what you're going to see most of the time if you come around Vancouver these days. Regardless of where you go, there's not nearly as much dressing up, I don't think.
Just letting you know that there's at least one person who thinks that is all that Canada is and will never not think it until he visits it again. And it seems unlikely he's going to visit again. Then we also got a thank you from Larry, who says, thank you very much for AVRant, as the information is great and also the movie reviews are around the money. Good job, Rob.
Thank you.
John and Ireland said good luck to Canada prior to their round of 16 match versus Morocco. So, John.
I'm not going to say that John in any way jinxed us, because Canada absolutely made it much farther than anybody was expecting, and so everything was gravy and a bonus. So no worries there. We were not expected to win against Morocco. But yeah, there you go. Did you want to say the names one more time?
Yeah, let's say it again real quick. So we got notes of gratitude from Neil, Greg, Tom, Karl, Ari, Kerry, Larry, and John. So thank you very much for thanking us.
And I'll say them one more time so they came from my lips. So we got Neil, Greg, Tom, Karl, Ari, Kerry, Larry, and John. Thank you all so much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
All right, in the news, just a little trigger warning here. Almost all the news coming up this week is bad. So we're going to start with some good news, I guess. Yeah. And then it's just going to be negativity city. I don't like all the negativity in the world. We should just do the good news. Or maybe reframe it. All right. Dirac has renamed their PC and Mac software, and they've added a Dirac Live active room treatment as an available option. So what's the new? Is it on here? Oh, yes.
I mean, that's the news. It's coming up what the new name is, but they've added ART. They've added the active room treatment to the PC and Mac software.
Good. Dirac software for PC and Mac used to be called Dirac Live Room Correction Suite. You could buy a license for Dirac Live Room Correction Mono and Stereo. I guess, is that just one? Mono
That's
and stereo?
one thing. Mono and stereo was one
Mono
version you could buy. Yeah.
Dirac Live Room Correction multi-channel. And if you had either of those, you could also add Dirac Live Bass Control. All of those options still remain, but with the addition of Dirac Live Art as an option, Dirac saw fit to rename the software to Dirac Live Processor.
Yep. So it's no longer Dirac Live Room Correction Suite. It is now Dirac Live Processor, the overarching term for the PC and Mac software.
I'm going to reserve my comments until I think on this a little bit more, because I don't love it necessarily. Anyways, you can also partake in the 14-day free trial of all the available features. Can you export? Well, I guess I'll keep reading and see what happens. With the Dirac Live Processor software installed, you can select the Dirac Virtual Audio device as your computer's audio output, and now any audio coming out of your computer will have Dirac's processing applied to it. The mono and stereo version of Dirac Live Room Correction costs $350. The multi-channel version costs $500. The multi-channel version is limited to 8 input channels, so it doesn't really seem like a proper Atmos solution. Bass Control adds an extra $300. Man, this is getting expensive. And Art is also a $300 add-on. So Art requires that you already have both Room Correction multi-channel and Bass Control. Mm-hmm. So you need to have the 5.3, so you're up to $1,100.
That's right.
There's no bundle pricing listed, so if you want Dirac Live Art running on your PC or Mac, it looks like you're paying $1,100, like I just said, and you'll need a USB measurement mic for the setup. Mm-hmm. This is the good news.
I mean, it's a thing that
how is this good? I mean,
for.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying this is just news. It's not good. It's just news.
I mean, yeah, it's not bad, and therefore, by comparison to what we're going to talk about coming up, it's good. You can get active room treatment on your PC or Mac if that's the way you've been running Dirac, or if that's what you've been waiting for. It's available now. You can get Art.
So the 14-day free trial. This is
yes.
That kind of thing. So you get the 14-day free trial. You run you run Dirac. Can you export it to your receiver, or what's the deal there?
No, because this is software that is running on your PC or Mac. So the idea is
I see. It's just for the audio output of the Mac. Okay, I got it.
That's right. This is just for the audio output of your computer. So, I mean, there are ways to, say, import just multi-channel PCM audio into your PC, right? But that is where the limitation of this software version that's running on your PC or Mac, it's 8 input channels if you're doing it that way. So this isn't going to do your 7.2.4 or your 9.4.6 configuration. This is basically for a 7.1 setup. I can't really think of a reason why it would be impossible to do a 5.1.2. That would still be 8 channels total. So you could do, that version of Atmos, I suppose. But the idea is that what's coming in just has to be multi-channel PCM. So you can do that with, I guess there are some analog inputs to your computer, that analog to digital converters that could do that. But it's mainly that it's an HDMI multi-channel PCM, just uncompressed LPCM coming in, 8 channels of it. And then all of the Dirac processing from room correction to bass control and now active room treatment Art can all be applied, and then your computer is acting as the audio output to whatever you're doing there. So this isn't like in addition to or in place of AV receivers or pre-pros that support Dirac themselves. Those are still their own thing, and yes, you can do the measurements on your computer. But those ones, the license goes along with the AV receiver or the pre-pro. In this case, this is computer software for your PC or Mac, and your PC or Mac is the source device.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is Dirac Live Processor. That's the thing to look for. It's available now. And you heard the prices. If you want all the way up to Art and you haven't purchased any of it before, it will be $1,100 to do that.
I guess, okay, whatever. All right, Mike, on to the other news, which probably isn't as neutral as that one was. Microsoft's Xbox division announced via a public email to all staff members, it's public, that 1,600 people were immediately being laid off. Another 1,600 people will be laid off within the current fiscal year. 5 game studios that Xbox acquired will be spun off, and Xbox's CEO Asha Sharma straight up wrote that Microsoft's gaming business is not healthy.
Yep. That is a direct quote. Not healthy.
Anyways, that sounds peachy. I mean, mistakes have been made. I mean, I think we've all seen them. You know, when you buy a studio and that's good at making a couple of games or a game, a specific game, and then you stop them from making that game in the way that they've made it in the past and try to make it into a live service or something, and then people don't like it. I don't really feel like that was well thought. Anyways, Double Fine Productions and Compulsion Games will go back to being independent studios. Xbox is letting them retain ownership of their original IP and catalog, so that's something. Ninja Theory and Undead Labs will be spun off under new ownership. The games that they already had in development for Xbox, which is Senua.
Yeah, Senua.
Senua and the State of Decay 3 will go with them. And then Arcane is reviewing potential strategic options, but they won't be owned by Xbox anymore. In the public email, it's explicitly stated that none of the first-party games that have already been publicly announced are being canceled officially yet.
That wasn't part of this email anyway.
But the future $1,600 job losses will impact all of the remaining studios that Xbox still owns. So, you know, everybody keep having fun with that hanging over your head. Yeah, hard to work in a situation where 3,200 jobs are being reduced and you don't know. I mean, you maybe have already been one of them, but if you're not, you're like, well, am I going to be one of the 1,600 that are coming up next? Yeah, hard to be super motivated to get stuff. Everybody's on LinkedIn right now doing their thing.
So, I mean, out of the Microsoft gaming division, which I think they did just officially rebrand to it's just Xbox now. I think that was one of the first things they did, if I'm recalling correctly.
Might as well call it Xbox since it's pretty soon going to be nothing. So there you go.
3,200 layoffs amongst that is approximately 1/5 of their labor force. So it is not, I mean, you know, out of Microsoft as a whole company, 3,200 layoffs is not that big, but specifically out of Xbox, out of the Microsoft gaming division, and that is where these layoffs are happening. This isn't Microsoft-wide, this is Xbox specifically. Yeah, it's about 1/5 of their labor, but I mean, they're also taking 5 of these studios that they acquired under Phil Spencer, and those are not going to be owned by Xbox anymore. So, I mean, you know, it was a weird thing because I seemed to be the outlier when Phil Spencer was the guy running Xbox, because the gamers loved him. Gamers loved Phil Spencer because Phil Spencer was unquestionably a gamer himself. And so gamers were like, Phil Spencer is a gamer. He's not one of these, you know, suit and tie people, peanut counters who's, coming in here and trying to run games. It's like, he really is a gamer. And that seemed to be enough to make all of the gamers out there praise him. But I'm like he really did run the business like a gamer because it seemed like his only goal was to collect them all.
Yes.
No real idea what we're going to do once we collect them all.
That's
but
the thing
we're
I've never really
all.
understood about their whole strategy. Their whole strategy seemed to be, we don't want to pay licensing, or we don't want to pay for you to be exclusive on our platform, or we don't want you to be able to take your really popular game and put it on a different platform. So we're going to buy you so that we can save that money and make it be exclusive, a one-time payment instead of an ongoing payment. I'm sorry, you don't like subscription services? Is that what you're telling me, Microsoft?
well no,
and then they got them, and then we're like, oh, we own you now, so hey, what if we just start meddling and make you 7 million times worse?
I mean, the weird thing was, from anybody looking from the outside, from a business mind person who wasn't necessarily a gamer looking from the outside, you would think, okay, what you're going to do is acquire a whole bunch of studios, including some of the absolute largest studios that exist in Bethesda and Activision. And you're going to say, okay, all of those are now first-party games, and we've been saying all along, first-party games show up in our subscription service, right? What is that thing even called? Game Pass, right? Xbox Game Pass. Yeah. First-party Microsoft games show up in Game Pass. And you're going to go, okay, so look, whether it works out or not, we don't know. But you could absolutely make the case of, we're going to acquire a whole bunch of studios, gigantic studios. Those are going to be first-party Xbox games, going to be exclusive to Xbox. You can't play them anywhere else. And if you join up with our subscription, you get those games as part of the subscription. But you're like, okay, like that's a case to be made. Maybe it all fails, but that's a case to be made. I can totally understand it. And yet, that wasn't actually what they did. Because, again, Phil Spencer was a gamer. He was trying to please the gamers. And so he's like, don't worry. We're going to acquire these studios, but they're not actually going to be exclusive. Their games are still going to show up definitely on PC, which that wouldn't hurt Microsoft, but their games are still going to show up on PlayStation. A bunch of their games still showed up on Nintendo. Like, so they're like, we don't want to take anybody off, right? These studios that we're acquiring, their games are still not going to be exclusive to Xbox. You're like, okay, so why am I being convinced to join? And you're like, okay, so now what you're supposed to convince me of is that it's because it's on Game Pass. But it's like, they also then threw in other companies' services and ballooned the price up so much. And you're like, what if all I wanted were Xbox games? Like, can you lower the price and just give me the first-party games? Well, apparently not. If I want everything, I've also got to get EA and Ubisoft and stuff in there as well. And it's like, what the heck is going on here? And then you get to, even if they had gone to the original idea of everything is exclusive and you can get it all on Game Pass, it's like, well, if you then actually get to the, peanut counters, you're like, we have to charge so much for Xbox Game Pass that it isn't even like an attractive deal anymore. So all along, I seem to be the outlier in the world where I was like, I don't really think Phil Spencer's doing that great of a job. But like, I like that he's, talking to gamers real, and he actually is a gamer and speaks that way. But I'm like, I don't think what he's doing business-wise actually makes a whole lot of sense, and I don't love that they're just vacuuming up every game company in the world. And I really didn't love that it was like, where are the games?
Yeah.
Like, you vacuumed up all these studios, and then nothing came out. Like, what the heck happened? So, yeah, I didn't love all that. So, there's the one side that's saying, look, Asha Sharma's been assigned to this role as new CEO. Phil Spencer got his gigantic retirement payday, and there's no consequences for him that are negative in any way. Congratulations, what a fantastic job you did. You don't lose your job, except that, he did retire, but it gets a gigantic payday to do that. But Asha Sharma is brought in here, and it's like, okay, so she's about facing on a whole bunch of this strategy. That's not necessarily...
Yeah, I don't think it's her fault. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely it wasn't her fault where they are right now. But there's certainly the analysts outside of everything who are like, what this looks like, right? Like, if this were any other business and we don't pay attention to the, words that are being said because they're, as meaningful as the words themselves, well, they're worth as much as the print on the paper. Like, what this looks like as an analyst is we're slimming down this division in order to eventually sell it off.
Yeah, of course.
Right? That Xbox is going to be sold off by Microsoft at some point, and what do you do before you sell it off? You try to make it as attractive to any potential buyer as you can.
You trim all the fat, and you make it...
You get rid of everything that isn't profiting.
All the overhead. Yeah.
And it's like, well, that sure does look like what's going on here. Because, I mean, if you're trying to be very generous and go, well, if all you're trying to do is about face and like get back to profitability, it's like, is there any path? Is there any path that Xbox as a division has to actually, like, when they're making no bones about if Project Helix, the next hardware, even does come out, before all of the Ramageddon that's going on here, before that, they were saying this is going to be a really high-end, expensive piece of hardware, and that was before all the storage and memory prices went absolutely insane and through the roof. They were already saying that, so what is this thing going to be priced at now? $2,000, right? Like, that isn't a way you're going to bring back the masses to Xbox as a hardware platform, so I think this thing is being... This is me, Rob H. I think it's being slimmed down in order to be sold off.
I think that's obvious. The thing that irritates me is there was clearly decisions that were made that for many years people were like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why they're doing this. And then, but they're like, oh yeah, we got more money than we can shake a stick at, and it's fine.
Yeah.
And then the person who did all that gets a payday and leaves. And then somebody else is always stuck with the mess, and they look bad, and that irritates me. That that person who put them in this position, they may have been popular, they may be popular within company or whatever. There should be repercussions. You shouldn't be able to retire with a huge pay, the golden parachute or whatever. But that's
I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to go ahead on air. You can refer back to this and say how wrong I was if I was wrong, but I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction on what I don't think is really that long and skinny of a branch. I think Netflix is going to end up buying Xbox. I think that's where all of this is heading. That's my prediction.
Remember when Reed Hastings kept opening his mouth and we kept going, stop it, and he finally did, and then Netflix is okay again?
But I mean, it's like, everything about Xbox was heading towards subscription model anyway. That absolutely lines up with Xbox with Netflix, right? Like Netflix is going to be a subscription gaming service. That's what's going to happen there. And I think the idea is you slim it down. Who out there has the money? Who out there has the interest in gaming? Who out there specifically has an interest in subscription-based gaming? And I think it's Netflix. So that's my prediction. We'll see how right or wrong I am in the future.
We'll see. I don't know about Netflix, but I agree it's going to get sold off. All right, public reactions to Sony's PlayStation news seemed to be the loudest this past week. You might recall that last week, the 551 Studio Canal movie titles will disappear from the PlayStation Store in September, but that's not just a case of no longer being able to buy those titles. They will be actually removed from your library, and you won't be getting any refund or compensation, and not even an apology from Sony, who's trying to pretend like it's somebody else's fault. Hey, that's what we call gaslighting, in case you're wondering. Indeed. So this week they announced that in July of 2027, they're closing the PS3 and PS Vita online stores. God, the Vita. I haven't said those words in a while. Yeah. They already tried to do that back in 2021, but after backlash from users, they reversed course at that time. That seems to be very unlikely this time, though. Mm-hmm. Unlike the Studio Canal movies titles, though, the closure of the PS3 and PS Vita online stores just means you won't be able to buy any more games for those systems. Previously purchased content will still be downloadable for now. Sony says for the foreseeable future. Yeah, okay. So no actual amount of time given.
Right. Wouldn't that be nice to have an actual amount of time given?
Anyways, they had a statement about it. Here we go. Quote, after nearly 2 decades of supporting the PS3 console generation, we want to let you know we will be closing the PlayStation Store on PS3 as well as on the PS Vita. We know this news may be disappointing to PS3 and PS Vita players who hold a special place in their hearts for this generation of gaming. PS3 and PS Vita represents an important era of our PlayStation history, so this was not an easy decision for us to make, unquote. Yeah, it was. Shut up. You made it a long time ago.
You sure did.
You're like, how long do we have to wait? How long do we have to wait until we can shut it down after 2021's backlash? They're like, oh, no, give it like 3 or 4 years.
To be fair, the quote was, this was not an easy decision for us to make, which means it could have been a very easy decision for them to make. That would still be in holding with the quote.
Again, there's still no actual apology in there.
There wasn't. Really, think about those words. There was no actual apology in there.
This was hard for us to do. This wasn't easy for us to do. It was super easy for us to do. That's right. And then the big news. Sony announced that starting in January 2028, all new PlayStation games will only be released via digital download. No more physical game discs for you, suckers. Yeah. So that when we decide to close this whole thing down like Xbox did in a little while, then that'll be it. You just lose it all. It's so dumb. I mean, so irritated. Quote, As consumer preferences and the broader entertainment industry continue to shift away from physical discs to digital, physical game disc production for all new games released on the PlayStation consoles will be discontinued starting January 2028. Following this date, new games will be available on PlayStation Store at retailers in digital formats only. That's where you buy a box, and inside there is a code. It's like...
Or... we're getting to the point where all you just get is a receipt from the store with a code printed on the receipt. You don't even get a box to put on your shelf.
So this transition has no impact on games already released or will be releasing prior to January 2028 in disc format. This is Sid Schumann, Senior Director via the PlayStation blog. So
yes, the PlayStation blog is where this news came out. Everybody picked it up and made a whole bunch of noise about it online. But that's
so maybe not the optimal timing of announcements, but whatever.
It's like right on the heels of we're closing down stores for old consoles. So it's like, okay,
All right, give me a second, Rob. You keep talking. My dog just came in here and looked at me like, if you don't let me out, there's going to be a problem.
Understood. So. Yes. So this is right on the heels of we're closing down stores for older consoles, and then there are these movie titles that not only can you not purchase them anymore, they're actually being removed from your library. Of course, after this news, there were plenty of commentators, influencers, and everybody online who were looking through some of the terms of service for the online game store libraries for any of your PlayStation PlayStation consoles, present and past, and ostensibly you would figure for the future as well. It's like there is language in those licensing agreements that you've, I guess, clicked OK to at some point. I'm sure at some point there was a check mark you had to put in, I agree to the terms of service. And there's nothing that says that Sony can't do this to games in the future, that there's nothing that they can be removed from your library. Games that you paid for, they don't have to refund because you are not buying the games. You are buying a license to the game. So, I mean, the thing is, I end up not quite wholeheartedly being on the side of all of the kerfuffle that's been going on this past week. And, people are pointing to, like, there's a, change.org petition, and they're like, yeah, within a day it already had 100,000 or 150,000 signatures or something like that. And, like, people were pointing to that as evidence of how against this, no more physical disc game releases, the whole audience is up in arms. But it was like, wait a second, like 100,000, 150,000 signatures. Like, granted, that was, they were saying that was within the first 24 hours or something. But, like, think about how many gamers there are out there, right? Think about how many PlayStation consoles have been sold. Even if we're only talking PlayStation 5 consoles, right? They're up over 100 million. It's like, so 100,000, 150,000 people signed a petition within 24 hours. I'm like, that's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. I don't love the notion that there won't be physical games to buy anymore, but I kind of think Sony is correct. Like, it removing the emotion from it. Yeah. I think they're actually kind of right. I think it is moving. Like, look, I haven't bought a physical game in I can't remember how long. All of the games I've bought for the past 2 generations have been digital download.
This home theater podcast, unfortunately, because we focus on discs specifically for movies, because we know that that's where you can get the best quality audio and video for the most part, not always, like we said last week. We tend to favor that medium because we know what we're getting. We also like to own things rather than just have them available digitally, because every single one of us at some point has lost something because of that.
Absolutely.
At this point, it's almost impossible for you to have lived as long as many of us have lived and not have had some service go, you don't have that anymore. We took it away.
Either the whole service is gone, or just the particular title you want is gone from a particular service. And
maybe it was only temporary and came back, but a lot of times it wasn't. We overvalue this. Kids do not. And I use kids very liberally. I am 50 plus years old. If you're in your 40s, you're a kid. Sorry.
Yeah, right. That's
Sucks
right.
to be you.
Perpetually.
So when I say kids, I'm not talking about teenagers. I'm talking about young, millennials, younger generations.
Right. Okay.
And so they don't value physical discs as much as we do, and I think that's okay. I think I actually, don't mind it so much as I think maybe some other people do. I think many of us rail against the loss of discs while secretly not buying discs. You know what I mean?
Sure,
secretly
exactly,
screaming almost everything, but saying that discs are the future and discs are the way to go, and that you prefer discs over anything else. And I'm like, yeah, but you still have a Disney Plus subscription, right?
Sure.
Oh, yeah. When was the last time you bought a Disney movie? Well, I haven't. Okay. All right.
No, I mean, like I was saying, all of the online bluster and backlash and everything like that. First of all, it's all going to be gone by next week. Everybody's going to quiet down and move on to the next news story. It's just there for clicks. But the other side of it is, like, in the very same breath, you have the people going, well, then, obviously this means that the PlayStation 6 is not going to have a disk drive. Like, that is pretty evident when they're saying January 2028, right around the time when they're going to be announcing the PlayStation 6. Okay, so we're not going to expect that there's going to be any physical games for the PlayStation 6. That seems very obvious. I wouldn't expect any for Project Helix if that ever actually comes out on the Xbox side of things. And Nintendo has already gone to the thing of, okay, yeah, you can still buy the game cards, but a whole bunch of those game cards are just a game key card where you still have to download the game from Nintendo Online, and the key card is just there as a digital rights management, a physical digital rights management. So it's not as though Nintendo is all on board with, keeping physical games going either. So right in the same breath of people going, oh, well, then I'm not going to buy a PlayStation 6 and shame on Sony for doing this and taking away choice from gamers and all this type of stuff, they say, that means I'm just going to stick to PC gaming. When is the last time you bought a physical PC game? Like, come on. right?
My son, let me tell you something. So my son's been working on my computer, right, trying to get things going over there and stuff like that. My desktop, and I think he hasn't done anything in the last week or whatever. And my son, that's my eldest son. My youngest son went off to camp to work, and when he came back with a stack of CDs. I'm like, what are these? He's like, I bought some CDs. I'm like, you bought CDs? Like, do you have anything to play CDs on? And he's like, oh, I'll get something. I'm like, you don't have any money. You spend all your money on CDs, you idiot. And second of all, where do you think you're going to listen to this thing at? In your room? You don't have a CD player, and they're not as cheap as you think they are. And I was like, well, your mom's car has a CD player. And my wife looked at me and said, what? It does? I'm like, yes. And I looked at my eldest son. I was like, okay, well, we can take the disk drive in my computer and burn the CDs onto something that he can play. He goes, your computer has a drive? I'm like, what is happening? How does no one know? Like,
that's how
I'm like,
often
yes,
it's been
it has a
used.
drive. What do you think that button's for? I goes, I don't know. I thought that was just a light. It's not. There's a drive. There's a drive in that computer. But this is how much they don't care about physical media. They literally don't even know when they have a player or not. I showed my wife that disk drive. You press it; it's really cool. There's a panel on the front. There's like the screen on the front that has physical buttons, and you press the physical button, and then the screen tilts up, and you can put the CD in. So I misread what my dog was saying. She was not saying that she was wanting to go out. She was saying that there's thunder out there somewhere, and she can hear it, and she is not happy about this situation.
Gotcha.
Do you want to sit on my lap? Because I feel like that's not going to be comfortable. Come here.
Before we let that rapid change of topic completely end this story here. Oh, hello, Violet. Very cute.
Okay,
Violet is on camera.
She said, I can only hear you halfway now because she said on my keyboard.
There we go. We got to get a full screenshot of Violet so people can see a little bit better. But yes, before we completely exit that topic, I do think where I have a criticism of Sony is they actually had an opportunity here. Right? They actually had an opportunity to, even if it's pure lip service, they could have paid the lip service to saying, this means that we're going to make improvements, or we're investing more into our PlayStation online infrastructure. That's all they had to say was just something to say, look, it's going to be digital download only. There's not going to be any more physical discs, but that means we're seizing this opportunity and we're investing in our online infrastructure to make it not just as good as Steam. We're going to make PlayStation Online better than Steam. They could, even if it doesn't come true, they could have said one sentence along those lines, and then all of the online people would have been cheering because they're all saying, oh, it's all PC gaming now. And look, when you're talking PC gaming, you mean Steam. Let's be real here. That's what people are talking about. If Steam was bad, that would be a real problem. And look, Steam could become bad at any moment. Valve is not even a publicly traded company. They could decide to pull the plug anytime they want. Steam could do any number of things at any moment. It just happens to be that so far, largely, gamers are on their side and feel like Steam has treated them pretty well. But Sony had every opportunity to put in one sentence saying that this means we're going to make PlayStation Online better. And that's honestly all they had to do to turn this entire story around. Yeah.
They could have said a lot of things we're coming up with new algorithms to make sure that you get the fastest downloads or the whatever. They could have said a lot of things, but they didn't. Comments from our listeners. This dog's just going to quiver on my lap, I guess, is what's happening here. I cannot remember. I couldn't tell you the last time she came up on my lap and wanted to stay here for any length of time. She's not that kind of dog. James wanted to share a tip about the way he prompts AI in order to get more accurate responses, since we commented on that subject last week. So let's just present his full quote without any editing on our part. Okay. I will say that it's been shown that many people ask their questions to AI in such a way as to get the answers they want. Why are physical discs the best? Instead of saying, instead of asking a more neutral question. So anyways, quote, as a follow-up to last week's podcast where we discussed the use of AI, if you copy and paste the following into your favorite AI engine, you get more factually accurate and less controversial answers.
Conversational, answers.
And then I guess it's got do you have to put these two asterisks on here?
I don't know. I haven't learned enough about AI prompting to know whether this is true or not. But anyway.
So anyways, the way it's written, it's got two asterisks back, right there, and then it says, for this session, operate in strict technical analysis mode. You must follow these rules. Number 1, do not guess, infer, assume, or invent mechanisms, behaviors, or fact. 2, every statement must be documented behavior or logically deduced from documented behavior. Okay. Number 3, if something is uncertain, say uncertain and explain what would be required to verify it. Number 4, do not embellish, generalize across unrelated systems, or fill gaps with plausible sounding explanations. 5, do not create narratives. Keep answers strictly technical and grounded.
Some of these seem redundant to me, but it's an AI you're talking
It's
to.
an AI, I guess. 6, treat every claim as if it must withstand a review by subject matter experts. Well, just start right there. 7, if the question cannot be answered with high confidence, state that clearly instead of improvising. Maintain this mode for the entire session, and then 2 asterisks at the end there. I find the prompt helps with a lot of complex IT syntaxical queries more than home cinema questions, end quote. Okay. If I have to do all that, then I'm not doing it. What about that?
So, I mean, yes, I mean, a little bit tongue-in-cheek response to all of that, James. I mean, it's like, so first of all, he's saying, okay, copy and paste that. So he's not actually saying type all of that out. But just the idea of how AI has been sold to everybody, right? You just talk to it like you would talk to a normal human. Well, that is those 7 rules are absolutely the way I talk to any human when I want a factual response back. Sure, just easy as pie, completely intuitive. Yeah. But more than that, like I just said in the middle of that, a lot of those sound redundant. And then look, the thing is, there's no guarantee. There's still no guarantee. You put all those prompts in, and even if those guarantees work literally today when you put them in, there's no guarantee they're going to work tomorrow. Yeah. The thing keeps retraining and keeps changing, and it is not determinative. That is the problem. It's not a deterministic response. You can ask the same question multiple times and get different answers back, even when you put in these prompts beforehand, because sometimes it loses track of the prompt. You told it at the very end, maintain this for the entire session. I've had experiences where they don't. I've put those in, not these instructions, but I put in the instruction, retain what I've said for this entire session. I put that prompt in to AI, and sometimes it doesn't. It's so this is still not some kind of I'm gonna.
This is not a magic formula that works every time.
This is not a guarantee. You can. I don't mind. Go ahead, put in all these prompts. It'll probably do a better job of not just utterly making stuff up to try and please you if you do. But it's I don't think these are magic words. Why would they need to be redundant like that if they were magic words? It should be simpler. A single prompt should be able to accomplish all of these things. I think this is maybe stuff he's accumulated over time to try and get back the responses that you want. So, I mean, I appreciate it, James. Thank you for suggesting that in. We wanted to say the whole quote so that we weren't paraphrasing or anything like that. I don't mind if anybody wants to copy that and give it a try. But, I still don't think.
Ask us. You don't have to say all that stuff. Though I wouldn't mind having some of that on a T-shirt. When speaking to me.
Right?
Infinite Kerry received his 48-inch LG C6 OLED shipment, and he promptly put it next to his aging CFL backlit TV, Sony TV, that he strictly uses for SDR sports viewing to see if the C6 could take its place. After much fiddling with the C6's settings, he concluded that it looks just like his LG C3. I mean,
I'm so shocked.
This is very surprising.
I mean, we are talking SDR only, and the thing they always tout is how every year is brighter than last year, but that doesn't apply to standard dynamic range.
And he never really liked the C3's SDR image enough to replace the old Sony, so the Sony stays. Maybe a 50-inch Sony Bravia 7 to true RGB will have better luck. It's SDR. I mean, it's
yep.
How could this go? I mean, I want to see if this car can go 40 miles an hour better than other cars going 40 miles an hour. You're like, it's still going 40 miles an hour. I mean, do you want it to go faster? Oh, no, I don't want it to go faster. I want it to go exactly 40, but I wanted to do it better than the other car that's doing it. You're like, it's still 40, though. I don't know. Okay. Good luck, Kerry.
On the technical side of things, right? So with a system like a LCD system where there is a backlight of some sort, right? There is a certain spectrum of light that the backlight is producing, and then that spectrum of light is filtered through LCD filters. And so it can make, yes, let's go back to Violet there. It can make a difference.
Happy. I can hear the thunder right now through the headphones because they're open back. She is unhappy puppy right now. She does not like it, and she just went through July 4th. Wasn't happy that night either.
Right. Yes.
So it's a thing. Go ahead, Rob. Go back.
Yeah. No. You can actually measure and see graphically on like a spectroradiometer exactly what the color spectrum is, what the backlight is producing, and then what is making it through those color filters. And so like there is a genuine difference between a CCFL backlit LCD and any LED backlit LCD, sure, any mini LED, any RGB LED, or an emissive display like an OLED or a plasma. Like there are legitimate differences in what colors are actually reaching your eye. And so all of the colors that we're seeing, for the most part, other than the absolute pure primaries, which is really rare that's what we're actually looking at on any image, it is a mixture of the primary colors that has made it through the filters or has come out of the emissive layer. It's a mixture of those colors. And so, we'll put it all together and say, okay, according to the diagram, like we're getting the same colors, but there is a genuine difference in terms of the primaries that are reaching your eye depending on what the backlight is. So for whatever reason, Gary's eyes have a preference for how that CCFL backlight going through those particular LCD filters. He really likes the color rendition that comes out of there. And just because we've calibrated another display, like it doesn't mean there isn't like a genuine difference in the, colors of light that are reaching the cones in your eyes. And so it might not be possible, Gary. There might not be any modern display that has exactly the same look to colors as that old CCFL backlit LCD.
So if you're watching the YouTube channel and you're seeing the dog on my lap and she seems very fixated to my, I don't know what it would be for you guys.
Screen right, let's say.
Yeah, it's my left, screen right. That's the open door, the door that opens to the rest of the house. My other dog's out there. He could give a crap about thunder or fireworks or anything like that. She is unhappy about that. So I'm starting to hear the thunder, and she's not super comfortable in my lap. She just, I mean, I don't. If you had four legs, you wouldn't be either. But that's what's happening right now. So we're just gonna go with this. If she wants to get down, she can get down whenever she wants. Some questions here. So we'll start with Steve. Steve describes himself as semi-retired and a bit long in the tooth, but he's a dedicated PS5 gamer, and he also watches a movie on his one-man home theater system nearly every night. He's got an LG OLED and a PS5, of course, which also serve as his Ultra HD Blu-ray player. He's running a 5.2 audio system with Infinity interlude speakers all around, one Infinity sub. I'm looking for it.
Don't worry.
I'm looking for it. Hold on.
Infinity sub.
I'm looking for the sub. And one Klipsch R120 sub that we previously helped him position and integrate. His current AV receiver is a Marantz NR1403, which has been around. That's an older one. All right, here I'm looking. There's one sub there in the back right corner.
There is indeed. And then...
and the other sub is...
Front left corner.
Front left corner there.
And it is of the room and not just the home theater area, home theater setup, because the home theater setup in this room is kind of over to the right side of the room space as a whole, but the subwoofers are in the rear right corner and the front left corner of the entire space as a whole. So good job there.
It's got tower speakers all around, which is...
It is tower speakers all around.
Yeah.
But it's a 5.2 setup.
So he's pretty darn happy with this system, but he wanted to note he is not a fan whatsoever of sudden loud noises, so he appreciates having Odyssey dynamic volume and being able to even out the dynamic range swings. His speakers might be circa 2000, but he's taken very good care of them and he still loves them. So he's coming to us because he just sort of has the itch to upgrade something. Since he's happy with his display and speakers, he was mostly considering a new AV receiver. He isn't necessarily all that interested in buying and installing a bunch more speakers, but he was intrigued by our descriptions of how Dolby Atmos height virtualization can actually sound pretty good, and a certain Onkyo model that we mentioned sounded like something that wouldn't break the bank, but might make a nice noticeable upgrade. So what do we think? What might be a nice little upgrade to a setup that can enhance his enjoyment without completely changing everything about his setup?
Mm-hmm. Are you going to say room treatments, Tom?
I mean, I am.
I know you so well.
There's not a room treatment to be had in this room. And I mean, he's got, is that a, I'm a little concerned. I don't know what that black circle is above his right speaker.
Circle above his right speaker.
It looks like it's not a door, but what is that? Is it a hole? Is it a thermostat? What is that?
It definitely doesn't look like a hole. It's something mounted on the wall.
Yeah. So mounting things on the right wall are not really possible because of the doors, unless you mount them on the doors, I suppose.
And those are, it looks like they're the rolling, like barn-style doors that we're seeing from the track above them there.
He's got stuff on the walls pretty much everywhere in this place. Yeah. Shelves and stuff like that. It would take a little doing to do some room treatments in here, but I imagine that it is possible. He's got a big space underneath the bottom shelf behind him, behind the things on the shelves, and then to the left and right of the shelves.
Between the shelves?
Yeah, between the shelves and stuff like that.
I mean, would we say that this is, I mean, I can get on board with being like, that could be a nice little upgrade, but I don't think I'm going to go as far as saying it's some kind of night and day difference that's going to happen from putting some panels on the walls. It's not that.
So this is my thing. People love to say that they're satisfied with what they have because that's all they've experienced and they feel like it's good enough. Because
I can see this sounding pretty good, though. I'm not going to say it doesn't.
So sometimes people come on here and we see their systems and are like, listen, if you make this change, it will be a night and day difference. Will we, like if we were, like this room doesn't seem particularly large. I mean, I don't know. It seems enclosed. I don't see any.
It appears so,
opening.
yeah. It's possible somewhere in the back left corner that we have no picture of that it's wide open to something.
Yeah. So if this is enclosed and, you know, could different subwoofers make a difference? Yeah,
I mean, you could get subs that like flat out, straight up play lower. And louder than your current subs. Though
louder,
subs
I'm
like
less
that
worried
exist.
about. Lower could make a difference in stuff that you're feeling.
Yeah.
Could changing your speakers make a big difference? I don't think big would be the way I would describe it. Yeah. I mean, I think it could make a difference. You could make
an audible difference. That is certainly possible. But I certainly have no beef with his Infinity Interlude speaker, so I'm not going to say you need to change those.
No. Will the height virtualization make a sonic difference that you will notice? And the answer is, I think yes. Will you necessarily like it? I don't know.
That is a question mark.
You know, so you could buy a new receiver and then, are you getting down? I think she's getting down. There she goes. Okay.
Seems like.
Go on.
The dog has been comforted.
No, she's just lying on the ground next to me. Okay. I'll try not to run.
Yes.
I don't have a bed for you. I don't know what to tell you. There's no. I could put.
All right, you deal with the dog. I'll carry on.
So basically, what I'm saying is, you're asking to make a change that will make a sonic difference that is impressive in some way, right?
Yeah, like wants an upgrade. Like just feeling the itch. I haven't made a change in a while. What can I do that'll be an upgrade?
And I don't know that I can point you to any single thing that you will definitively say, I have upgraded my theater. I mean, every single thing that I could make a difference sonically that you could notice and that you could like, right? You could change all your speakers to something that, more expensive, maybe smaller footprints. Or not even.
It's just, you can definitely notice that a change has happened.
Yes. You could put room treatments all over the place and even out stuff, bass and stuff for the rest of the room, but you're sitting in one chair anyway, so what does it matter? You could get subs that play lower, but you don't really like wild dynamic swing, so maybe you're not even going to really notice it all that much. You could get the height, the new receiver with the height virtualization, and then try it and go, that's a thing, and I don't like it.
It does have a high likelihood of actually being noticeable, and if you do like it, you will consider it a nice little upgrade.
Right, but you might not.
You might not. Yeah, we can't guarantee.
Yeah. So I don't know what specific. I think your plan of getting a receiver is the maybe the best of all the options out there, even though I think that room treatments are more important.
And there's the side of it where, it doesn't really sound like he has a ton of sources that he needs to switch between, but you do have a receiver that is not fully up to the capabilities of what your PlayStation 5 can output and what your TV can do and what audio can do. So, look, there's no issue right now because right now he can plug his PlayStation 5 directly into his TV and then rely on ARC because he's only doing a 5.2 system right now. But if you do then go to one that does Atmos height virtualization, then you would, either be doing eARC if you're still doing the same signal path, or you would be able to plug the PS5 and other sources directly into a new AV receiver that would be able to pass through all the way up to 4K 120 and VRR and all of those things that your TV can support. So there's some argument that you're not getting nothing with a new AV receiver outside of the height virtualization. There's being able to handle the latest in HDMI. Yes,
and I also think that this is the most open-ended of the upgrades of the changes you can make, right? You get new speakers and you've got
the option to add more speakers if you decided that you wanted to.
Right. Access to more codecs, access to higher HDMI, not having to use ARC and all these other things. The ability to add more speakers if you wanted to. Room correction, in theory, if you wanted to use it. These are all... I think your plan is probably the best. Yeah.
Yep. So I just wanted to give a warning. I'm going to answer the question since it was asked. The Onkyo model that you were thinking of is almost probably certainly the TX NR7100, because that is the one I've talked about as being inexpensive, but giving you 9-channel processing, so you can have 5 physical speakers, but then virtualize 4 overheads, which is my preferred way, because then you get a virtualization version, or you could, of course, connect physical speakers to have not just side-to-side steering, but also front-to-back steering for the overhead sounds. So I do like having a 9-channel receiver, particularly in a setup like yours. Now, the NR7100 is nigh impossible to find anymore, but there is the RZ30 that took its place, and it is not crazy overpriced, especially if you're looking at, say, accessories for less or something like that. But for you specifically, I kind of want to warn you away from going with the Onkyo RZ30 because you specifically said that you really appreciate what Odyssey Dynamic Volume does so that you don't have the wild swings in volume, and the Onkyo does not have an equivalent. The Onkyo, whether it's a 7100 if you can still find one, or the RZ30 that I just mentioned, they do come with Dirac included. You don't have to pay extra. That is just for Dirac Live room correction. You would have to pay extra to add bass control onto it, and they don't support Dirac Live Art on those models, but you could pay extra to upgrade to bass control. But Dirac does not have a similar function to either Odyssey Dynamic EQ or Odyssey Dynamic Volume. And the Onkyo does have in the RZ30 like the THX listening modes, where you can use like THX's loudness plus as something kind of similar, but it's limited to only those THX listing modes, and then it doesn't work with the height virtualization. So you're getting one thing and then not really even getting the feature that you were buying the new AV receiver for. So all of that leads me to say, I think you should stick with Denon or Marantz. But Denon for the lower price. And since I would like you, if you're going to do height virtualization, to at least kind of go whole hog and end up with the, both side to side and front to back virtualization steering and not just 2 overheads, that leads us all the way to an X3800H, right?
Yeah,
which is
way more speakers than you need. But
yeah, potentially. They can go all the way up to 11-channel processing if you want to. But yeah, heck, you can virtualize a 5.2.6 configuration. You're allowed to do that with the 11-channel processing. But yeah, that's the one I would point you to. There is the X3900H if you want to go brand new and the absolute newest. But as we've covered in previous episodes, there's not really much in the way of features that's different between the X3900H and the X3800H. And since the X3800H is discontinued, you can find it for a lower price. So that's the one I say you should get.
All right. There we go. I think I can switch my camera a little bit here now that I'm super
now that the doggie is gone.
Now the dog is. Now if I look at her, she jumps up like, are we going? Are we leaving?
Right.
Jonathan laments the fact that where he lives, he really doesn't have any options to go and listen to different speakers. Being able to buy internet direct is nice, but it doesn't make in-person comparisons as easy to do. So he's hoping that we can point him in the right direction with our experience and advice. I'd like to talk about this topic of, losing brick and mortar stores and living in places where you don't have access to a number of showrooms or whatever. I want to talk about that, but let's do the question first, and maybe we'll come back to it. Maybe we won't. So he's got his setup in a great room. So it's a living room plus a kitchen plus a dining room. That's roughly 20 feet by 30 feet, and the ceilings are 9.5 feet. So that naturally the TV and the surround setup only occupy a portion of that space. His couch is 10 feet from the TV to the front speakers, from the TV and front speakers. His current speakers are all Paradigm Monitor series, and he's looking for an upgrade. He's got a pair of SVS PB 2000 subs handling the bass. I mean, probably. I mean, you can't really pressurize the space, but that's that's not a bad choice. And the Marantz SR6011 receiver plus an Outlaw Audio Model 5000 amp. From his own research online, but no actual listening experience with them, he is leaning towards either getting a set of SVS Ultra Evolution speakers or a set of Arendelle 1723 THX speakers. Can we help make the decision for him? Which speakers should he get in order to upgrade his Paradigm Monitor set?
I just wanted to say, in terms of, little bit lower price range, I think the Monitor Paradigm Monitor series was a really good choice that you made, because for their price point, they are a little bit higher efficiency than a lot of other speakers at that price. And given that, so I mean, look, the 10-foot listening distance to the front speakers, so when we're talking the mid-range and the treble, it's not too much of a concern there.
Yeah.
But we do have to think about, as soon as you start getting down into the lower mid-range, the upper bass, the room does play a role in that, and you're really not getting any reinforcement there. So either you're, going to a very high crossover frequency where you actually might start to be able to audibly locate the locations of the subs, or you need speakers that are just capable of the sheer output into that upper bass, lower mid-range region to contend with the size of the room. So I think the Paradigm Monitor series was a really good choice that you made at the time, and that means recommending an upgrade over them is not the easiest thing in the world. There are speakers I can say I personally think maybe they sound a little bit more refined, but it's like, you gotta get something really nice for me to say, oh yeah, this is going to be a clear upgrade over Paradigm Monitor series, because those were a good choice to begin with. So just starting there.
Yeah. So, to kind of like back up, I think I just maybe pasted that 17 times. I was trying to get this thing to work and it wasn't working. So to kind of back up and talk a little bit about what Rob was just talking about there, we talk about subs being omnidirectional, right? Sound radiates in all directions, and the sound that you hear is always reflected in some way. You're not sitting far enough away to get the full wave. The full wave cannot resolve itself before it hits your ear, so it bounces off of something before it does. And so we as humans, loved categorizations and being able to say, okay, you are this category, you are this category, you are this category, and never the twain shall meet. Okay. We say that the subwoofer is going to handle the bass. Well, that's not really totally true. Your speakers are dipping down towards, and into what you would consider, like if I played you a note and said, is this treble bass or mid-range or bass, you would say this is bass, and I'd be like, yeah, that's
500 hertz. 500 hertz is where we start saying, oh, that's bass. Anything below 500 hertz, your speakers are definitely handling 500 hertz, not your subwoofers.
When we say that you want to sit within 12 feet of your speakers, because anything less than that, the speakers can't hit their reference volume or get to the reference volume usually with the normal receiver without having an amplifier and not having a high enough power handling and all the other things that you need to have. If you put a normal speaker that can at 10 feet in a normal room and closed space play cleanly down to 80 hertz, no problem. You put that in a massive room, as it dips below 200 hertz, the room is just sucking the bass out of, or your ability to hear the bass. How about that? Out of the speakers. The sound is getting lost as it comes towards you. So, what Rob's talking about is if, because your speakers are so, and it's really not that great of a distance. 10 feet's not that great.
Yeah, no, that's not that part isn't the problem.
That part isn't the problem. But if you wanted to make sure that you were still getting as clean a line, like a frequency response, as flat a line, without a dip before you get to the speakers, you'd have to turn your subwoofer's crossover frequency up so high as to make them noticeable as to where they are in the room, which would be problematic. So I agree. You have a couple things going on, going for you here, if you will. If you were to say that you had a specific brand of speakers that have a sonic signature that we would recognize, we would say, oh, okay, so now we have to worry about what the speakers sound like and what you're used to, because people often hear something different and go, I don't like it. It's different, and it's not what I was expecting. But you have Paradigms, which are, generally speaking, fairly flat speaker with no real signature sound to them. And it's pretty easy for us to say, okay, if you like Paradigms, then you'll like, and there's like a long list of speakers that we recommend. So what we're really looking at here is the output of the speaker.
But also, like, unless, because he didn't say he's completely opposed to potentially buying another or more amplifiers as well.
Right.
But like, we really like the Outlaw Model 5000 amp, but it's not like the beefiest amp that has ever existed. It's a very capable amplifier, but it's not some 500 watt monster. And so, I mean, there are speakers that we could potentially list that through sheer brute force and raw power handling can absolutely handle your room size, but that would actually legitimately require us recommending along with them a higher wattage amplifier, because like, one example would be RBH. RBH speakers have a lot of power handling and can play louder than you might expect for a lot of their speakers, but they get to that higher output level through sheer power handling, and your Model 5000, while we like that amp a lot, is not that type of amplifier. So unless we're making even more changes to your system, I focused on putting together some examples of higher efficiency that will be able to handle your room and then work along with the amplifier that you already have. So, I mean, there's a little hint. I've given a little bit away. I might not be helping you and narrow down this selection that much, because I'm actually going to point to some other suggestions that came to mind for me. What I'm going to say is, to just answer this question straightforwardly, I'm not the biggest fan of the SVS Ultra Evolution speakers. And I know some people are going to be shocked, because aren't the AVRant guys like big SVS fans? It's like, in general, yes, and I still like their subwoofers a lot, and I still like their Prime Series speakers, and I don't hate the Ultra Evolution speakers, but I'm not a gigantic fan of them. I don't think they're the best speakers out there type of thing going. And so out of the two that you mentioned, I think that if it is absolutely limited to those two, I would lean towards the Arundels myself. The THX 1723 series does have higher sensitivity than is typical. We're up into the 92, 93 dB sensitivity, which is very nice. They absolutely have the bass output capabilities to go along with this room. They are a nice neutral, wide, even dispersion design. And so I would feel pretty good about going with the Arundels. If you want to leave it at that, I wouldn't have a beef with you making that decision right there. Black is not the only finish option. They are also available in a white finish option, but I could get behind the Arundel THX 1723 series. So I'll start it there.
Yeah. My concern, if you will, is that I'm not exactly sure what it is that you're upgrading.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking for a different sound, if you're expecting things to sound remarkably different than what you have experienced, I think we're going to have a very similar conversation to people with people who go from one sub to two, and they get to that second sub. They're like, "Well, I feel like I have less bass." I think that here, what it's not going to be this big like, aha, I plug these speakers in and everything sounds amazing. I think it's going to be like, hey, does it sound the same? Does it sound the same? And then occasionally you're going to be like, wow, I never really noticed that sound before.
Sure.
That bass, or, I never really noticed this before. And it's going to be that kind of upgrade, if that makes sense.
I've got a couple on my list coming up where my opinion is that I would expect you to notice the difference. Whether you're actually going to like that difference better than your current paradigm monitors, I'm not sure. But there's two coming up where I would expect you to actually notice the difference in the sound, and maybe that'll get you to lean towards them. But before before we get to the more expensive ones, in terms of, and this is a little bit more for the wider audience and not narrowly specifically for who is it who's asking this question here, Jonathan. For the wider audience, for someone who's looking for very high value, very, very high value, but with a little bit higher sensitivity and really good power handling, if that goes along with it, I didn't want to not mention Ascend Acoustics Signature Series. Now the SE2 series, we don't have the CBM 170 SE2 shown here because it's not on their website just yet. But those CMT 340 SE2, they call them mini towers. They have the pedestal stands that you can add onto them, and then they look like towers. Those speakers have more output capability and higher sensitivity than you would expect for their $800 a pair price. So that is something that I can absolutely get behind. I'm not sure that, like, me personally, I think that they're actually a little bit of an upgrade over the Paradigm monitors. Not in looks. They are very plain black boxes, and the Paradigm monitor speakers look nicer. But in sheer performance, I think they're a bit of an upgrade, but you might be like, they even cost less, so do I really want that? So getting into some of the other alternatives, here is one where I think you'll notice the difference. Power Sound Audio. Power Sound Audio has updated all of their speakers using Klippel measurements and Klippel designs, and the measurements are impressive, and I would absolutely keep you within their 10-inch woofer size, which is a crazy size to even think about as being on the smaller end, but we're talking about Power Sound Audio, so they have 12-inch and 15-inch woofers in some of their speakers. These are the 10-inch size, and that's where you would want to stay. Now, these are outright high-efficiency speakers. These are 98 dB per watt, and they are actually an 8-ohm load. They're not, like, disguising themselves as a 4-ohm load, 8-ohm nominal or something like that. These are like an 8-ohm load, 98 dB sensitivity. With the amplifiers that you have and with this horn-loaded design, I would fully expect that you will genuinely, and not making it up just because you bought them, be like, oh, I hear a difference. And these absolutely could handle your room size. They're within the price range, but these are exceedingly plain large black boxes, okay? Those are not regular stand mount monitor speakers. Those are 10-inch woofers in these, and they only go bigger than that from here at Power Sound Audio. But that is one I could get behind as being like, you are going to hear a difference. They are going to definitely handle your room size. If you're okay with the gigantic plain black looks, then that might be a way to go. Another one where I would expect that you really genuinely will hear a difference is if you went with Aperion Theatris speakers. So these have their folded ribbon tweeters. Now, interestingly, these don't come in like a standard tower or bookshelf form factor. These are all meant to be kind of mounted speakers, so either on-wall or in-wall mounted speakers. They do have the one that look like the old MK Sound or M&K speakers.
They all look like M&K to me, to be honest with you.
Those ones aren't really meant to be mounted on a wall. They are a stand mount speaker, but they don't come in a regular tower or a bookshelf form factor. But again, they fit the price range you were looking at. They have the high sensitivity, very easy load for the amplifier that you have to play very, very loud, and I think you would actually notice the difference. One other option aside from those, and again, all I did was increase your list, so I don't know if I've helped you at all. Like I said, if it was really down to those two, then go with the Arundels. That's my personal take. But per listen is not out of the question. You would be looking at their quote-unquote entry-level series, the A series. They are a little bit more expensive than the other ones you were looking at, but the per listen A series also has the higher sensitivity and could handle the room size if you wanted to go over that way. But yeah, that would be the list. So out of all of those, if I was going for what do I think is going to give you the absolute most bang for the buck in terms of I noticed that I made a change here, it would be the Power Sound Audios, actually. Those are the ones I would point you to out of these. But yeah, by golly, do you have to be okay with their looks? This is a great room. This is a living room. I don't know if you're okay with something this big and black and boxy and plain looking. But if you just want all the money to go towards an audible difference that you made, I would kind of point you to the Power Sound Audios. If it's between the SVS Ultra Evolution and the Arundel only, then I say go with the Arundels.
Yeah, these per listens aren't very attractive either.
I don't like the way those the Pollution A series.
I mean, this looks like somebody didn't know how to put a speaker together and just sort of like shoved it in there. And then
I would have the grills on those like nobody's business.
I mean, somebody out there is real mad right now, big mad about me saying that. But yes, yeah. So. Yeah, I agree with everything Rob's saying here.
Okay.
And from your perspective, the question I think we really need to have answered is, what kind of upgrade are you looking for? Are you looking for a different sound? Are you looking for more sound? Are you looking for better sound? Because better sound doesn't often take the form of a major upgrade. A better sound often is incremental, especially if you're starting off with paradigms. You're not.
Those paradigm monitors are no slouch.
Yeah, and so I want to make sure that we have our. We're happy to make recommendations for speakers that can perform better in your space. But if in the end you're like, I want to have this transformative audio experience that is completely different than anything I've experienced before, and everything sounds different and better, we can do different.
Yes.
We can do better. I don't know that we can do different and better at the same time. So, how do you feel about headphones? All right, Christian. Christian ordered some fabric samples from Acoustimac, and looks-wise, he likes the acoustically transparent Suede the best. But he tried the old hold it up to your mouth and blow test, and the Suede very obviously has more resistance to air movement than the other Acoustimac fabrics. So just how acoustically transparent is the Suede fabric anyways? Could he place speakers behind it without significantly impacting the sound, for example? No. No. So from the perspective of acoustic treatments, I'm less worried about massive treble absorption, like the highest level of treble, which is when you're blowing through it and you're not able to get as much air through it. The more air, more resistance is, the lower the frequency comes down to where the sound will go through. It becomes reflective to the highest frequencies. Lots of stuff in your room are already absorbing treble. I mean, and treble doesn't have as much energy to it as bass does anyways. So you put the two things together, and I'm less kind of concerned about that from acoustic panel perspective, because really what I'm worried about with acoustic panels is absorbing, as low as possible, as much as possible.
Well, I mean, look, if you put that acoustically transparent, quote unquote, Suede over some 1-inch thick panels, not having a very good time.
No.
On the thicker panels is where it makes sense. Actually, I mean, look, Acoustimac doesn't make any bones about it. Maybe they don't say it up front in the description as clearly as possible, but they have their own listed measurements right there on their site. And they show, if you compare, say, their 4-inch panels covered in acoustically transparent Suede to, say, some GIC Acoustics 244 panels with the range limiter membrane on the front of it. They're not exactly the same. The membrane is like more precisely tuned, but they're more similar than they are different, and they're more similar to having that range limiter membrane on the front than they are to having a just completely, fully acoustically transparent fabric on the front of them. I really like the Suede as a low-cost alternative for something like, say, a front wall panel that's behind speakers, where what I care about is absorbing that boundary reflection, which is only in the lower mid-range frequencies, and it's, the treble is going forward and not really going backward out of the speakers, and then retaining some of the energy in the room in the higher frequencies and not just absorbing everything and making it sound, dry or deadened in there. So I really like that as a low-cost way to achieve that while looking really good. But if you want the most broad spectrum absorption that you can possibly have, then the Suede actually is limiting that. It is acting more as a reflector in the treble than it is allowing those sounds completely through. So it definitely wouldn't be speaker grill cloth. It would change the sound of the speaker with the transparent, acoustically transparent Suede in front of it. You would notice that the speaker sounds muffled with that fabric in front of it. Yeah, so it is not one to use for that.
For like speaker, like people worry about speaker grill cloth as being the same, having the same effect, and we say it's not really a big deal. And not only is it not a big deal, but if you did have like slightly thicker, like, or you put 2 layers of speaker grill cloth, like you put a speaker behind an acoustically transparent wall that had speaker grill cloth as the acoustically transparent fabric that was on it. So you had speaker grill plus another speaker grill. Your room correction program could adjust for that, just beef up the treble slightly to make it a little bit more bright, and that would all it would take. But in this case, there would be a definite change.
If you want the fabric that looks a little bit higher end than the standard fabrics, it doesn't look exactly like the Suede because it is not Suede, but the executive fabrics that Acoustimac offers, they are very, very acoustically transparent. I can't say it makes zero difference to use it as speaker grill cloth. You could measure that there is some little difference coming through it, but it is such a little difference that, your EQ program would be able to kind of overcome having the executive fabric in front. So that would be the way to go. It's not going to look exactly like the Suede, but it looks like an upgrade over the standard fabric.
Adam, regarding Sofabaton's hub-based remotes, the X1S and the X2, just how customizable are they? He's someone who frequently adjusts settings on multiple devices, and he also likes to retain individual manual control over the power state of each device. So let's say he's using his TV, his Emotiva Pre-Pro, and one source device. Let's say his Apple TV 4K. He's going to want to be able to hit a single button and have all those devices power on. That's just an activity, so yes. And to set themselves to the correct inputs. That's part of that activity. You're
That's
okay
right.
there. He is then going to want the volume buttons on the remote to control the Emotiva and the directional pad and playback controls to control the Apple TV 4K. That's not a problem. That's part of the activity as well.
That's right.
The activity will ask you where you want the volume to be controlled by, and then what the main TV, what the main
which input to go to.
Yeah, input to go to. So far, so good. That sounds like a typical activity, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
But then if he wants to pull up his TV settings and adjust something there, or what if he wants to pull up the Emotiva settings and make changes? Can he customize the remote's interface for the watched Apple TV activity interface to the extent that he'll be able to easily make those changes? Obviously, this would also go for other source devices besides his Apple TV 4K as well. And then what if he already is within the activity when he wants to manually cycle the power on just one device that is already in use, or he wants to manually power on a different source without leaving his current activity? Can the hub-based Sofabaton remotes be customized to do all of that? So I want, first of all, you can add buttons to anything, and you can actually add the physical buttons that are on there. So on the screen you can add buttons, as far as I know. On the physical buttons, like the Apple TV 4K, for example, doesn't use every button that's on the front of the remote.
Definitely not.
And you can then program those different buttons to be other things. Like I programmed one on, and I immediately stopped using it, and now I can't remember which one it is, to go into like the TV settings or something like that. Sure. Or, something. I don't remember what
here.
it was.
So if you like, your Apple TV would take up the direction pad and the OK. The volume, of course, would go to your Emotiva. The mute would go to your Emotiva. But then you've got like the ABC buttons. You've got the red, yellow, green, blue buttons. And so
the channel buttons don't do anything. You can check with the channel buttons do something if you want to.
You could program those. Only you would know about it. No one else would know about it. But you could program
those
going to be labeled within an activity to control some other device.
You could do that if you wanted to. What I do, so I was just talking at the beginning of the podcast about how my TV stopped powering on, and I made a change to how the power on thing goes. But when the TV wouldn't power on, what did I do? Right? Do I stand up and walk across the room like a common peasant and press the button on the TV to turn it on? Absolutely not. Do I keep my TV's remote next to me just in case it won't power on so I can use that remote? What am I? Gonna switch remotes? So no. Instead, what I do is on the X2, there's like a back arrow button, not the physical button, but on the screen that backs you up to the like before the activities part of the remote. You press devices, you click on the device you want, which will have all your devices listed there, including devices that are not used in the current activity. So I have I was using an LG TV for a while. That LG TV is still in there. It irritates me that it's there, and I don't want it to be there, but
you can remove it, Tom.
I could, but that would take effort, and we are low effort around here. So I press the Samsung button because that's my current TV. The Samsung button pulls up all the commands on the touch screen for the Samsung.
And you can, as long as you put the time in on the app, reorder everything, get rid of commands that you don't want, add commands that aren't there by default. You can definitely do a lot of customization. It just takes a little bit of time and waiting around for everything to update.
Yes. Luckily, the power on and power off button are at the very top there.
Right.
But once you're in that device control, the remote, all the physical buttons below it become for that device.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I go into the TV and I press on device and then press the Samsung TV. Now the direction pads are for the TV. Now the guide button is the menu button for the TV. I know this because my son kept turning down the brightness on my TV, and I had to turn it back up. And you could do all that from there. So can it do all these things? Yes. I don't know how you would want it organized in a way that made sense to you, but you can definitely get to every command on every device from any activity, even if that device is not part of that activity.
It's a little bit of potentially rejiggering the way you think about it for what I think is the easiest solution to this. Because here's the issue, right? I think what he maybe has in mind is, right, like I start my watch Apple TV 4K activity, and then I don't have to do anything else on the remote. I can just do all of these things from within that activity. And that would be a problem. It's not impossible, but I definitely wouldn't call it user-friendly, because the clearest example is that directional pad is now controlling your Apple TV 4K.
Yes.
The physical buttons. And while you are still within the Watch Apple TV 4K activity, there is no way for it to change to, I just want to make a quick settings change in my Emotiva. And while I'm making that settings change, I want this directional pad to be the up, down, left, right, and OK for the Emotiva, not for the Apple TV 4K anymore. There's no way to do that inside of the activity. Now, you could add up, down, left, right, and OK for the Emotiva to the touchscreen within the Apple TV 4K activity. You can do that. That's a thing you can do. But it would almost certainly mean a lot of scrolling on the screen and pressing the buttons there. And on the X2, there's a little delay. It's not quite as fast as pressing the physical buttons when you're pressing the soft buttons on the screen. Yeah. And so it's technically possible to do, but all of those extra commands you'd have to put onto the touch screen, or only that up, down, left, right are mapped to the color buttons or something like that.
Who else is going to do this but you? Let's be honest, though.
Yeah, it would only be for one other device. Like if you want up, down, left, right, and OK for the Apple TV 4K, the TV, and the Emotiva to all exist within the Watch Apple TV 4K activity, it's technically it's possible, but I wouldn't call it user-friendly. So if you're willing to make
it would not be user-friendly on a Harmony. This is
of course, yeah.
No, this is no.
But I think that's why he's asking exactly how customizable is it? Is there a way to have a button on the screen that says Emotiva, and now I press that, and now within the activity, it knows to change the directional buttons to control the Emotiva. Now that I pressed Emotiva, set it. No, unfortunately, it doesn't have that. So if what you're willing to do as a user is change the way you're thinking about it a little bit, all you would have to do is I'm within my Apple TV 4K activity. I press the back button on the screen and go back and choose device instead of activity. Now you can definitely, from your device list, choose the Emotiva, and now the remote, including the hard buttons, just controls the Emotiva. And now I want to make a settings change in my TV. I go back on the screen, I go to devices, I choose my TV, and now the remote, including the hard buttons, just controls the TV. So you can functionally do what you asked either way, technically. But the most user-friendly way would be if you could switch your mind to saying, hey, look, I just want to make a change to some settings in my Emotiva. You go to the device for that and do it that way. And honestly, that would be the exact same advice I would give for a Harmony setup. For a Harmony, I would say the same thing. Go back and do devices one at a time when that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Neil says a big thank you to both of us for discussing how to get more kick you in the chest sensation from his dual PC2000 Pro cylinder sub setup. We're seeing some pictures here on the YouTube channel.
Reminder photos from last week.
Yeah. So we followed our advice and used the SVS app to manually adjust the parametric EQ settings on this pair of subs. He goosed up the 40 to 60 hertz region, with some of it spreading up higher towards 80 hertz, and gave that a try. It hit the spot in terms of achieving tactile chest thumping, the tactile chest thumping that he was wanting, but didn't sound quite right anymore. It became overkill, especially if he played music with those settings. He mostly watches movies on the system, to be honest, and just popping in a couple of test scenes with big explosions and whatnot was fun with the adjustments. But movies have a lot of music too, of course, so he also pays attention to that. And with the boosted up 40 to 60 hertz EQ, music sounds unbalanced and unnatural. So So is this just a case of going to be a case of trial and error? Is it possible to find just the right balance of enhancing the chest thump without making music sound unnatural? You can try to just goose it up enough to give you a little bit more chest thump without it making the music sound unnatural. But invariably, there's going to be a song with some notes that just live in that region and are going to sound bad. There is going to be no true, other than you remixing the movie yourself to having the, you know what I mean? And way back in the day, Clint DeBoer, who is a good friend of the podcast and a friend of mine, worked for a sound studio. And one of the things that he, like when he first started, in order for the training portion of it, for him to get used to all the equipment and stuff like that, they just gave him a movie that they had done the sound for, and then he remixed it a number of times, in different ways in order to do all that. If you don't have access to that sort of power, there is going to be very little that you can do. And this is what we talk about when we talk about speakers that have a sound. When a speaker has a sound, it is doing essentially what you are experiencing right now. This is why we advocate for speakers that can play flat, that do not adjust, EQ, or modify the sound universally.
Yeah, in an inherent way.
Yeah, because when they do that, then you are now trapped into having if you want to have that tipped up treble or that boosted mid range or that accentuated bass, that means that everything is always going to sound that way. And yes, something like when you hear audiophiles say, "Oh, these speakers are really good for jazz." Okay. So basically, it's a jazz EQ filter, but you have to buy the speaker. So now, how do they sound for rock music? Oh, they sound terrible for rock music. Well, what if you want to listen to rock music? It's just not the way it works. So that's what you're experiencing here. So Rob has talked about it a couple of times, but you could set a preset for your SVS subs that essentially allows, gives the bass boost when you want it and takes it away when you don't. Doing it in the midst of a movie so that because there's an explosion about to happen and you want it to happen seems unwieldy to me, but maybe it works.
From the wording in his email, it did sound as though he boosted it quite a bit. Turned up the 40 to 60 hertz region quite a bit, which I don't mind at all, because the whole point was just to see, can this do what I want it to do? Because he was asking last week, might I actually need to add an entire extra sub to this room to do this? And we were like, no, you can do this with the EQ. So he's like, okay, let me go ahead and boost up the 40 to 60 hertz that Tom and Rob said to do. Can it actually do it? And it sounds like he boosted it quite a bit. So ultimately, asking, is this trial and error? Yes, it is trial and error. That is the way it's going to be. It's very hard for us to say, here's exactly the settings you need to do in your specific room with your specific seating and your specific speakers and subs. It's like there's no one size fits all that's going to absolutely nail it the first time out. But I did mention last week, you can try just a 3 dB boost, right? Just 50 hertz is raised by 3 dB, with it then rolling off slightly down to 40 and down to 60. Those are still elevated a bit above the rest of the frequencies, but, it's a hill that's peaked, centered at 50 hertz. You could try it with 50 hertz boosted by 6, 50 hertz boosted by 9 or 10 or 12, whatever it is. And it sounds like he boosted it up quite a bit. So yes, it is just trial and error to back it back down, but the reason I like doing this in the SVS app itself is because you do have those multiple save slots. So you can have a save slot that is no change whatsoever. That's save slot number 1. You can always get back to it. One that is just a small boost, just a 3 or 4 dB boost, and then one that's a bigger boost, and you can switch between them on the fly from your phone without even getting up from your seat. And I think that's the most reasonable solution. But settling on what those slave slots are going to be, trial and error.
Yeah. So if you can find a scene that has music before or after it, and then the explosion or something, a sound that gives you the kick you in the chest part, and you can just kind of watch that over and over again, so they're next to each other to make it a little bit easier. That'd be great. And then you just kind of play with this until you get all right, well, the kick drum sounds a little weird, but overall it doesn't sound too bad, and I like the way that the explosion goes, and then just leave it there.
Yeah.
He's seen the trendy wooden Slat panels all over his Facebook feed, and he has to admit he does like the look of them. He was browsing over on Geek's website and saw they have their Slat Fuser panels that offer this look. He bought a couple of them and has them on his front wall, and since those look good, he figured he might as well add some to the back wall of his theater. But then he was shopping in his local hardware store and came across some acoustic Slat wall panels that have a similar look but cost much, much less. Anybody want to guess why? Anybody want to guess why they cost much, much less? It's not because somebody misplaced a zero. I'll tell you that way right now. You
or
go
that
into it,
Geek is just ripping you off.
ripping you off. They're just raking you over the coals over there at Geek. But of course, they're also much thinner. The Geek Slat Fuser panels are 70 millimeters thick, or 2 3/4 inches, while these hardware store panels are only 22 millimeters thick in total.
Millimeters, yes.
Millimeters. What did I say last time? 70
No,
millimeters?
you did. I just want to emphasize it.
Yeah,
22 millimeters in total thickness.
With 13 millimeters of that being the wooden slat thickness, and only 9 millimeters being the thickness of the absorptive felt layer behind them. Let's remember that 3 centimeters is like an inch.
Pretty close, yeah. 2.54 centimeters is 1 inch, so.
And millimeters are a bit smaller than that.
Millimeters are 1/10 of a centimeter, yes.
Math's hard for us Americans. So would they be of any help with the theater acoustics? And if he bought them purely for looks and he mounted them on his back wall with the current printed art panel still on the back wall as well, could they actually harm the acoustics? Or would it be fine to just think of them strictly as decoration to enhance the looks with essentially no impact on the acoustics whatsoever? Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, are they as good or anywhere near as good, or do they work at all? And the answer is no.
These do next to nothing, acoustically speaking. If they're purely as decoration, fine.
I want to say that they don't do nothing. So what these
they don't do literally nothing.
They're slats, wooden slats, and behind them is what, like felt or something?
Felt. 9 millimeters of felt.
Yeah. Something back there. So will the stuff that's back there absorb something? Invariably, the answer is measurably yes. It does absorb something.
Some very high frequencies. Yeah. Very high.
Enough to make an audible difference in your room? Probably not. And then as far as the slats themselves, would these be more of a diffuser sort of situation? The answer is a little bit.
I mean, maybe at 6 kilohertz and above.
Not nothing.
A little bit. Not
nothing.
Literally nothing. They don't do literally nothing.
So if the difference is, if you're like, okay, I'm not going to put any more panels in this room. Yeah. I'm not putting any more panels. But if I put these up, will they harm the sound?
Nope.
I think the answer to that is no. They won't harm the sound. Will they do absolutely nothing? They won't do absolutely nothing. Technically, they will. They're a little bit of a diffuser. They're a little bit of an absorber, and you're probably not going to hear it. So that
very
does not
high
mean that
frequencies only.
Doesn't mean they're doing nothing. They're not doing nothing, but they're not doing anything that they're not doing enough for you to really notice them. So if you said, I'm not going to do anything else to this room, but I like the way these things look and I'm going to put them up, will they make things worse? The answer is no. I don't think they will make things worse. They will not necessarily make anything better, but if you like the way that looks, what do I care? Knock yourself out.
Nope, they are not the equivalent of actual acoustic panels like the Slat Fusers. Those are actual acoustic panels. I would still want to get them thicker than the regular Slat Fusers. I'd want to get the so-called Slat Fuser bass traps that are at least 4 inches thick. That's what I would want to get from Geek, ultimately. But no. So I don't have a problem if they're purely as decoration. There's ones from the hardware store, but don't think of them as acoustic panels. They are just decoration.
And like I said, they are not doing nothing. So having them labeled as acoustic panels,
I see.
is
it's
not
a lie.
technically incorrect.
Gotcha.
It's not a lie. It's not a lie.
But Geek is also not ripping you off because they are actual acoustic panels.
So Tom recently had a big family reunion, which is 50 people all in one house, but it was a house on the beach, so a lot of the time was spent outdoors. Tom has a side hobby as an amateur DJ, so he's in charge of the music, but it wasn't practical to move his entire DJ setup from the pool to the beach to inside the house, etc. So he bought a JBL Boombox 4 to easily carry from place to place. He was pleasantly surprised at how good it sounded and how loud it was able to play. The battery on the JBL Boombox 4 is user replaceable, which is nice, and you can plug in your phone straight into it via USB-C, and it also has Bluetooth, of course. But one thing it does not have is any sort of analog input. No RCA, no 3.5 aux port, nothing. But since it did such a good job during the family reunion, he was thinking he'd actually like to use it with his DJ gear sometimes. But his Pioneer DDJ 800 deck only has analog out. It does have RCA out, so it doesn't have to be a balanced connection, but no USB or Bluetooth out from his DJ deck, so no direct way to connect it to the JBL Boombox 4. He figures there's a way to have his laptop output both the Pioneer deck and the JBL Boombox at the same time, but then the changes he makes so the audio on the Pioneer probably won't come out of the PC audio connection, PC's audio connection to the JBL Boombox, right? So can we point him in the direction of either an RCA to Bluetooth or RCA to USB-C adapter that would let him connect his Pioneer deck directly to the JBL Boombox? So there are, I remember looking at this because we would do this for headphones quite a bit. Okay. Ways of doing an analog output from your getting like an analog output from your TV into Bluetooth, right? There's a lot of Bluetooth connectors out there, right?
Yeah.
And this is so that you can have your Bluetooth headphones connect to your TV, right? The problem, of course, you run into is lag.
Yeah, latency.
Yeah. So this is the one thing that people always forget about, that there is lag in Bluetooth, and not just Bluetooth, in analog to digital or digital to analog conversion. There's a time that it takes to make these things happen. And it can be quick. It can be very quick, especially with the low latency stuff. It seems very quick. But I'll tell you right now, if I'm watching a video on my phone and I connect it to a Bluetooth speaker, almost always there's lip sync issues. You know, just from that phone. If you're playing music, it makes no difference because it's the only thing coming out, and you're not trying to sync it up with some video. But if you're trying to have your Pioneer deck go out to two things at the same time, and one of them is going to be connected, going to go through a conversion, analog to digital, them being able to be in sync seems highly unlikely to me. So you're going to have to pick one or the other, is just basically what I'm saying. You can definitely do this. There's definitely devices out there that will do it for you. Yeah. But I don't know that you'll be able to do both.
Yeah, because you're still going to have that DJ deck connected to your regular speakers. Yes. Is the most likely thing. And then you have this boombox, and it's like, for those to actually be synchronized through Bluetooth. So I mean, look, I can point you to AVRant. That's the brand that I like for the converting an analog signal to a Bluetooth signal, and they're Outcast little devices, which run in the range of about $80, so they're not crazy. But yeah, those do support Bluetooth low latency, which is pretty darn good. I don't know if the JBL Boombox supports Bluetooth low latency, though.
Yeah,
I didn't see
thing.
any mention of it.
Both sides. Yeah,
both have to do it. Yeah. So AVRant Outcast is something. Outcast, by the way, is spelled with a K instead of a C, so they can do the find it through search. But yeah, that's one I can point you to if you want to go to the Bluetooth route. But there is just a physical connection that you could do. Now all of these are just like things coming out of China for the most part, but we're looking for a fairly simple analog to digital converter. And honestly, the easiest way to do this is with a full RCA AV to USB-C converter. So they always market these as like, hey, get your VHS recordings, or sometimes they mention turntable, but like, just get it into something that you can plug into your computer so you can digitize your VHS recordings. But all we're talking about is red and white RCA connections, and something very simple, $12.50 can actually do this task. Now, whether the sound quality is going to be fantastic, I'm not sure, but we're also talking about outputting it from a JBL Boombox 4 with a USB-C connection, and it's just
where's
regular.
The weak link here? That's the question. Like, I don't know where the weak
exactly
link
just regular
lives,
red,
but it's there someplace.
Red and white RCA connections, plus a yellow RCA connection, and even an S-video connection, because this is meant for a VCR, but it can do this just regular stereo audio for a very inexpensive price. There is a chip from Media Mediasonic that's in some little bit higher end devices. Lee Overstreet is cringing right now because he cares so much about old school analog to digital conversion that he has some, much better devices. And hey, maybe you want to contact Lee and get the higher end stuff. But there is a Mediasonic chip in devices that cost about $70. You can get them from Newegg that do the very same thing. It's the very same functionality. But if you put more faith into that Mediasonic chip to do these types of things, that is available at a little bit higher price. But that is a way you could do this without any latency. This is just a hardwired connection. It's converting the analog RCA signal to a USB-C digital signal, and it can get the job done.
Yeah. Adriano, I think feels like a gland of some sort. Adriano in Australia. Adriano is trying to help his friend figure out a solution for his setup. First of all, your friend does not appreciate your help and will not take your advice.
They might.
That's just my experience.
Probably won't like the prices I'm going to mention, but they might.
Yeah, what they're looking for is $100. They want to spend $100.
Probably.
Yeah. All right. His friend has an Sonos Arc Ultra soundbar along with a Sonos sub and a pair of Sonos surround speakers. That 5.1 setup can decode and play back Atmos using Sonos's version of height virtualization. You got to connect it via HDMI eARC to his Samsung The Frame TV, and that works perfectly. Let's not go with perfectly. Anyways, but now Adriano's friend is going to be adding a projector to this setup.
Tom's getting an inkling of where we're going with this.
All right. So this is going to be fun. The Frame TV is staying. So this is going to be a dual display setup where the projector screen can come down in front of the TV. The projector is going to be a Eximi Titan Noir Max. That's the projector. So spend a bunch of money on everything else and then is not wanting to spend a ton on what this next part of it. I don't know how much the Eximi costs, but I can't.
I think that one's around $4,000.
Okay, that's considering it's a projector. That's pretty reasonably priced. So he also has more than one source device, and like to be able to play any source on either display at the same time, and use the Sonos Arc Ultra soundbar setup with both displays. Adriano figured that HDMI matrix switches what is needed, but there's a wrinkle. The Sonos Arc Ultra can only accept HDMI eARC input. The HDMI port is not just a regular HDMI input, so you cannot just simply split each source 3 ways to feed both displays and the Sonos soundbar. He needs, at minimum, 2 HDMI inputs, 2 HDMI video outputs, and a dedicated HDMI eARC output. And it needs to be something that can be shipped to Australia. So he's looking on his own. Adriano found a number of HDMI matrix switches with audio extraction. Well, those will only provide optical audio connection, which would mean no Atmos. And then he found the HD Fury Vroom, which can do everything his friend needs, but boy, is it expensive.
Yes, it is.
So now he is asking us, is HD Fury Vroom the only solution? There's 2 R's in Vroom.
There it is. Because it's VRR, it supports variable refresh rate, so they threw that in there.
Okay. Very, very clever. So do we know of something less expensive that can check all the boxes and also ship to Australia? I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a little confused by what the problem is here.
Well, the issue is that Sonos Arc soundbar. It has an HDMI port on it, but it is exclusively an HDMI eARC port. That is the only type of HDMI signal that port on the Sonos Arc Ultra understands.
So it can't take a video signal. It just takes
There is no other HDMI port, so it cannot take a source that you plug into the soundbar and then feed through the video to the TV. There is a single HDMI port, and it only understands an eARC signal. So you can't even take your source device and split the signal, the HDMI signal, and feed one to the TV and one to the Sonos Arc Ultra soundbar. It won't understand a regular HDMI signal. It only understands an eARC signal. Exclusively. I know, right? So, I mean, HD Fury...
Paid extra for that, by the way. In case you're wondering, they paid extra for that. The Sonos, you paid extra in order to have a stupid port that's totally hampered. Right. I bet if you cut it open, the port doesn't have the wires for anything else. It just has the eARC one wire that comes in. That's it.
So, I mean, there are some convoluted solutions to this that don't have to cost a ton of money, because one option, I hate this, but one option would be the TV stays on all the time.
Yes.
Right? Now, this is a Samsung The Frame TV, so it's actually designed to stay on all the time, and you can just have it showing a black image on its screen when the projector is down. And then you still would need just a very basic HDMI matrix switch, because you still are taking, at a minimum, 2 different source devices and feeding that signal to 2 different displays. So you need at least something that can switch between 2 sources and then output 2 HDMI signals to 2 displays. So you could do that with a very basic HDMI matrix switch, and then the TV is on all the time, so the soundbar is only ever physically connected to the HDMI eARC output of the TV, and the TV is always sending that audio signal. It's just that sometimes the TV is just showing a black screen, and then the projector is showing the actual image. I mean, you could do it that way for a very low price, but it's whether or not your friend is going to be comfortable with that's the connection path, and that's the signal, and the TV has to be on all the time in order to do it.
I still don't even understand how you could do that, but I'll take your word for it. Go on.
Well, sure. I mean, it's just the sources. I mean, essentially, you're just using the splitter, but it's just you still want to be able to switch between 2 sources. So now we're at a 2x2 matrix switch at the very minimum. But yeah, you're feeding the video signal to both displays all the time. Sometimes the projector is off, sometimes the projector is on, but even when the projector is on, the TV is always on. The frame TV is always on, and that's where the eARC audio signal is coming from and feeding your Sonos Arc Ultra soundbar. So you just never turn the TV off, which, like I say, it happens to be a Samsung The Frame, so that's not out of the question. It can be very low power, even though it's physically still on. So that would be the cheapest solution, definitely. All we're talking about is a very basic HDMI matrix switch, and that could function. The HD Fury Vroom would be the perfect technical solution to this if you are insisting upon turning the Samsung The Frame TV off, because it has 4 HDMI inputs that switch among 4 HDMI sources, of course, and then it has 4 HDMI outputs. 2 of them are video outputs, so those feed the 2 displays. One of them is a dedicated HDMI eARC port that HD Fury absolutely 100% put on there for the Sonos soundbars, because they know. And then there is an audio-only output for older AV receivers that can't handle all of the video capabilities of the display that you might have. So it has 4 ports, and 2 of them are audio only, one of them dedicated eARC. Absolutely, this will function precisely the way that you had envisioned, but yes, the price is very high. It's like 800 Australian dollars, so it's not a cheap solution. So there's a solution that I don't think you should do, but it costs less than the Vroom, and it will technically work if you're willing to do more than I think your friend is going to be willing to do. O-Ray has a 4-in, 2-out HDMI matrix switch, but one of those 4 inputs on this O-Ray device is an HDMI eARC port. The thing is, only one of the HDMI outputs is also an eARC port, and thankfully, both displays that you're talking about, Samsung's The Frame and this X-Jimmy Titan Noir, they both actually support eARC, and like everything has to support eARC in order for this to work. But it means that you can't use the second HDMI output on this O-Ray to plug into the X-Jimmy Titan Noir projector and still have the eARC audio work. Both displays have to be plugged into the one HDMI eARC output of this O-Ray, which itself costs, 264 Australian dollars. I'm showing you the Canadian price because it's very, very close. But I 100% confirm that O-Ray does ship to Australia. And so all in this 4x2 matrix switch with the eARC port would cost you 302 Australian dollars. But since you are using only a single HDMI output on that, you would need a physical HDMI splitter, and you'd want one of the ones that's like the bi-directional, because it's actually just a like ka-chunk piece of metal that moves between the 2. There's no like powered circuitry inside this thing at all. Very, very inexpensive. You can get it for $17 off of Amazon Australia. But you would actually have the one output from the O-Ray going to this, and then now you would decide, is it my TV getting the signal, or is it my projector getting the signal? It's just a literal physical piece of metal switch in there, so there's not really anything to worry about that. So it costs less in the Vroom, but it would mean that you are physically pushing a button on that 1-in, 2-out bi-directional physical HDMI switch. I don't know if your friend is going to want to do that. Maybe it's easier to just leave the frame on all the time, because it is The Frame TV and it's designed to be left on all the time. So that might actually be the proper solution. I hate all of it.
I hate all of it. That's right. So you know what fixes this whole problem? An AV receiver. It fixes
does.
the whole problem.
It really does.
You don't have to. Many AV receivers, almost all of them these days, come with 2 HDMI outputs. You know, one for your projector, one for your TV.
Yeah.
You know, and then get some real speakers. I don't know. It's probably cheaper than all the rest of this stuff, anyways. At this point. All right. Who do we have left, Rob?
We have on our list Ari and Henry. So those two folks will be first up next week.
Sounds good. We want to thank our listeners of the week. We want to thank Ari for going to avrant.com and clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and sending us a PayPal donation, as well as our 120 patrons over at patreon.com.
That is right. Ari, thank you very much for that PayPal donation. And patreon.com/AVRant podcast is where you can go to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 120 patrons over there. Tom T, thank you for being one of those patrons.
Yes, thank you, Tom. We also got notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from Neil, Greg, Tom, Karl, Ari, Kerry, Larry, and John. Kerry, Larry, and John sounds like a off-brand Three Stooges.
Or a band. They could be a band.
Could be a band.
Definitely.
Could be a ska band. Kerry, Larry, and John sounds like a ska band. Anyways, thank you, all of you, for thanking us.
Indeed. I'll say the names one more time so they came from my lips. We got Neil, Greg, Tom, Karl, Ari, Kerry, Larry, and John. Thank you very much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is ask us by emailing us a question at avrant.com. For AVRant, I'm Tom Andrew.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.